Hello, I'm Stella, and welcome to the Pillow Talk podcast. Today is day 11 of Advent, and my tea is Moroccan mint. I think it's too hot to drink again, though. Yeah, it got done not too long ago, so we're just going to move straight on into the reading. Today I was going to do a shorter podcast because I was just feeling tired. But then I realized that, well, actually, no, I didn't realize. I read the reading for today, and it is about my favorite thing. It is about babies. I love babies. They're my favorite topic. I will talk about babies all day. But she was talking about babies and is it a deep pressure connection? What is it called? Deep touch pressure. That is what it is called. And that's why we swaddle babies. And she talked about how even adults need the deep touch pressure. And that explained a lot of things to me. And she says you can achieve this kind of deep pressure by a weighted blanket, a 20-second hug, or special compression clothing that squeezes and holds your body tightly. Deep pressure is also the phenomenon between infant swaddling and might help explain why Mary wrapped the newborn Jesus tightly in cloth. And then she goes on to tell us about swaddling clothes and how they were similar to bandages. They mention swaddling in Ezekiel 16:4 and Job 38, verse 9. Ezekiel mentions it as a sign of care and provision, and Job uses it as a metaphor to explain how God restricts the waters of the earth to certain places. She says, as interesting as this is, it becomes even more so when you realize that Luke's record of Mary wrapping her son tightly in cloth is the first record we have of the incarnated body of the Son of God. The first thing you learn about Jesus' physical humanity is his need for comfort and care. Because while these swaddling clothes serve the obvious purpose of covering an infant's nakedness, they also help a newborn transition from the womb to the world. For 9 months prior to birth, a child knows only the stable, warm environment of his mother's body. He sleeps in a tight ball with every need effortlessly supplied. He does not know hunger because nourishment flows continually through the umbilical cord. His senses are developed, meaning he is able to detect all sorts of sensory input, but his input is muted for now. It is quiet, dark, compact, and peaceful. And I think that kind of could also be referred to your comfort zone as a Christian, right? You don't want to leave the comfortable swaddling of your even ground right now. But on even ground, either you go down or you go up. You don't stay even, especially in relationships. So I think this is our sign to leave our tight swaddling of comfort in our Christianity and to move forward and to go outside of our comfort zone, which I know that there's a really big movement about that right now, but that is more of do what you want to, right? This is telling us to do what God tells us to do, not to say no because we're scared, but to not give in to fleshly desires, to stay back. She says, now imagine this. The God of the universe condescends to take on human flesh, choosing to come to the earth as a baby. But to do this, he must give up, basically, control, even control over his own body, so that when he finally enters the world, he is at its complete mercy. Naked and disoriented, his arms and legs flail, his chest rises and falls, his heart races. He gasps for air. So basically, at this point, Jesus is completely out of control of himself, right? He has entered into humanity. He is not, he's still the son of the all-powerful God, but he has subjected himself to the humility of being powerless. But we later see that God does give him the power to heal on earth, which is such a blessing. So Hannah then tells us about how his mother does what any good mother would do. She cares for him. She washes him. She covers his nakedness. She wraps him tightly, knowing this will calm him both body and soul. She draws him close, and suddenly his muscles begin to relax. His heart beats slower. His circulation improves. His brain releases dopamine and serotonin. His breathing is softer now. He shudders and hiccups, and with one final whimper, falls asleep, safe in his mother's arms. So, adding on to the leaving the security of our Christian, let's just call it our Christian womb. That's what we're going to call our comfort place. So, we need to leave the Christian womb, but as we're entering new scary things, we can still find comfort in the Lord, and the Lord will still comfort you. It may not be in the way that you want it to be, but he will be there to comfort you. She then says, when I think of how Mary clothed the body of this infant Jesus, it reminds me of how God clothed the naked bodies of Adam and Eve after they'd eaten the forbidden fruit in Genesis 3:7. It says that instantly the eyes of both of them were opened and they knew they were naked. Just as birth moves a baby from one reality to another, their sin unexpectedly ushered them into a new existence. And in the blazing light of righteousness, they stand vulnerable, exposed, and ashamed. Flailing, they try to hide themselves, but everything is out of their control. Every nerve on edge, every sensation heightened, anxiety and trauma course through their bodies. They are disoriented and helpless, the curse of the world already pressing in on them from without, and the curse of sin warring from within. But then Genesis says this: the Lord God made clothing from skins for the man and his wife, and he clothed them. So just like how Mary clothed Jesus to comfort him and to calm his nerves, God clothed Adam and Eve. And I think that is one of the reasons why clothing is so important now, because we don't have the mental capacity to feel 100% secure running around naked. God asks in Isaiah 49, can a woman forget her nursing child or lack compassion for the child of her womb? Even if these forget, yet I will not forget you. And then later in Isaiah 66, he promises, as a mother comforts her son, so I will comfort you, and you will be comforted in Jerusalem. And so he clothed them, he covered them, he comforted them. Just as Mary received, welcomed, and cared for her son, God receives, welcomes, and cares for us, his sons and daughters. Seeing us helpless and exposed, he clothes us, wrapping us tightly in the bands of his merciful compassion, even when we have only ourselves to blame. So, when the world doesn't give you what you need, that's because you're looking in the wrong place, right? When he says, can a woman forget her nursing child or lack compassion for the child in her womb, even if these forget? Even though the world will forget about you when you decide to follow Christ and to do what is right, God won't forget you, and he'll be by you, and he'll show you his loving hand. All right, now before we go ahead and finish these last few paragraphs, I've decided that my tea is cooled off, so let's try it and see how it is. I think I could have left the tea bag in a little bit longer. I was a bit in a hurry. My impatience always wins. Hey, something to work on. Yeah, it's good. I really enjoy mint, so it can't really disappoint. So then I'm going to read these last 4 paragraphs, or 5, because I thought that they were just so good. So certain is the Father's care for us that Jesus himself asks why we worry about it. Observe how the wild flowers of the field grow. If that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and thrown into the furnace tomorrow, won't he do much more for you, you of little faith? So certain is the Father's care for us, all we need to do is look at the cross, because there the promised Son is once again stripped and exposed for us. So certain is the Father's care for us, all we need to do is look at the tomb and see the grave clothes folded, the Son's work of redemption complete. So certain is the Father's care for us that one day when he gathers us together in a vast multitude from every nation, tribe, people, and language, we will stand before him clothed in white, clothed in his righteousness, mercy, and compassion. And so today, with eyes of faith, we learn to trust this care. We learn to trust that the God who clothed and comforted his restless children in the garden, the God who clothed as a restless child, will do the same for us. We trust that the bands of his everlasting love will hold us secure today and for eternity. I think that was just such a beautiful reminder of God's love, and how just because the world rejects us doesn't mean God rejects us. There's always time until the end, right? You only have the deadline of death that separates you from God. No sin that you have done has made it too late to become one of his children. A lot of times, I think in our society, we let our failures define us, and there's a really good song about that, and I'll link it on the Spotify. But it says, "My failures don't define me when the Father's in the room," and that has just been a really big part of how I've overcome anxiety in certain areas, because even if I fail, God gives me another chance to succeed in a different way. And I just think we need to stop looking at the little details and look at the big picture, right? How does this failure, how will it change me in the future? Vulnerable time. I failed my driver's test twice, and I really beat myself up about that. I think that just was a way for God to teach me that ultimately I can't do everything perfect, and I need to not strive to be a perfectionist. Don't trust in myself to get things done. Trust that God has a plan, and if it doesn't go the way I think it should go, clearly God has something better in store. So that is the end of today's podcast. Again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. We will be doing a Q&A at sometime in January. I will do it even if Autumn cannot, because we said we would do it 6 months ago, and I was looking through the comments and I was like, well, shoot. So if you did comment questions before, I did screenshot them and save them, so we will answer those. But yeah, I think that will wrap it up. I hope you guys have a good Thursday, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
He sleeps in a tight ball with every need ever. I'm struggling today.
I need to go outside of my Christian womb and steep my tea for longer.